Thank you, everyone who's on the line. We're just going to give it a few more minutes, let people join, and then I'll get us started. Okay, let's rock and roll. We might have some people join us as we go, but let's get started. Thank you all for joining. Very, very excited to talk about the Direct Air Capture Pre-Commercial Technology Prize. I will probably call it the Direct Air Capture Tech Prize for the majority of this presentation. But yeah, Pre-Commercial Tech Prize, let's get to it. So my name is Eli Kane. I'm the prize manager at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory based out in Golden, Colorado. I am responsible for the suite of direct air capture prizes, including the Pre-Commercial Technology Prize that we are talking about today. I'm also joined by Tony Ferrick. And Tony, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Tony Ferrick. I'm a fellow working at the Office of Fossil Energy Carbon Management, specifically the carbon dioxide removal and conversion team. My background's in chemical engineering, and I've been helping out with various aspects of this prize. Yeah, nice to be here.
Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about today. Start with just an overview on what the American Made program is at NREL, get into what the direct air capture pre-commercial tech prize is, talk about scoring, HeroX, and then finish up with some next steps. First, however, a few housekeeping items. As you can see, this is being recorded. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. We'll get back to you and post them to HeroX as soon as possible. And if you have any technical questions, please message Becky, who's on the line here. So what is the American Made program? Well, run out of the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. The American Made program is funded by different offices within the Department of Energy, and we award cash prizes and technical support to clean tech entrepreneurs and organizations, ranging from wind to solar to direct air capture. To date, we've given out over $150 million in cash and support through over 50 different prizes to over 300 different organizations, and our American Made network includes over 400 different members. And one of the first questions that we often get is, Well, what's the difference between the cash prizes that American Made gives out and government grants? And the biggest difference is that prizes reward you for work that you've already done versus work that you are going to or propose to do. So in the prize process, you begin performing work immediately and you complete a submission package that details that work. You are then rewarded for that work. And the huge difference is that prize money is no strings attached. Once you win the money, it is yours to spend as you see fit. We encourage you to use that money to continue your programming and to continue to submit submissions for the subsequent phases of the prize, but it's your money and you spend it how you want. So one of the huge differences, we are prizes, we are not grants, and I'm very excited about that process. I'm going to pass it here to Tony to walk through a little bit about what FECM is and what the DAC Tech Prize is all about.
Thanks, Eli. So the DAC Pre-Commercial Technology Prize is focused on awarding teams that are working on breakthrough DAC technologies. And so from a broad perspective, this technology is going, or this prize is going to be broken down into 3 phases. So the first phase, you're going to propose a solution. Then in phase 2, you're going to design a proof of concept. And then 3, you'll be responsible for deploying the technology to a specified degree of scale. Next slide, please. So on the previous slide, you saw that there are different awards for the different stages. So I just wanted to highlight that in addition to cash prizes at each step, there's also vouchers and technical assistance graciously provided by National Energy Technology Laboratory to help you further scale up your technology. Next slide, please. So here I'm moving on to a little bit of background about the motivation for this specific technology prize and its alignment with the Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management strategic vision. So in 2021, the name of the office was changed to include carbon management. So it changed from fossil energy to fossil energy and carbon management. And this is to be in alignment with different initiatives set forth by President Biden, which are shown on the slide. So quickly, this includes 50% emissions reduction by 2030, CO2 emissions free power sector by 2035, and net zero emissions economy by no later than 2050. And so in this strategic vision document, which is posted online, and I think there was a link posted in the chat, there are 3 main pillars to achieving these goals. One is advancing justice, labor, and engagement. Another one is advancing technologies that lead to sustainable energy resources. And the last one, which is most aligned with this specific prize competition, is advancing carbon management approaches toward deep decarbonization, which includes different priority areas such as point source carbon capture, carbon dioxide conversion, carbon dioxide removal, and reliable carbon transport and storage. And the one that's most relevant to this competition is carbon dioxide removal. Next slide, please. So around the same time that the name was changed, there was a DOE-wide initiative launched called Carbon Negative Shot. And so the main goal is to get CDR, so carbon dioxide removal, to the gigaton scale as quickly as possible and achieve a cost point of $100 per net metric ton of CO2 removed, which includes both the capture and storage step. Their goal of this program is to be technology agnostic. So we want to have a diverse portfolio of technologies ranging from direct air capture with storage, which obviously is related to this prize competition. But the initiative is also inclusive of technology like soil carbon sequestration, biomass carbon removal and storage, enhanced mineralization, ocean-based methods, as well as afforestation and reforestation. And some other metrics to note that are crucial to this carbon negative shot being successful include robust accounting of life cycle emissions, as well as high quality measurement reporting and verification. And those you'll see in the rules document for this competition that those are going to be part of your application materials, and Eli will go into the details of that later on. Next slide, please. Thank you. So just to get everyone on the same page about what is included in direct air capture, here we're referring to processes that remove CO2 directly from ambient air using a CO2 capture medium that can be regenerated for reuse in a cyclic fashion. And so to constitute carbon dioxide removal, it's important that that CO2 is securely stored and then is removed from the atmosphere on for long periods of time. So that can include geologic storage or in the form of long-lived products. But the focus of this prize is on the direct air capture component. So really focused on removing the CO2 from the air and not so much on the downstream storage or utilization aspects. So in scope of this prize are both sorbents and solvents or any other CO2 capture medium that can be regenerated. And then it's important to note that the photo on the left shows a demonstration scale unit for a DAC system. But at this point in time, only a handful of companies are at this stage. So the point of this prize is to facilitate more companies to get more companies and more technologies to scale up in face of the many challenges that the DAC industry is faced with today. Next slide, please. And so to go into some of the details about challenges that DAC technologies face, this includes low loading capacity, CO2 loading capacity at this time, slow sorption or desorption kinetics, which would make the cycle time very long for the processes, and then the sorbent and solvent lifetime. Because there's a lot of oxygen in air, we found that there are a lot of degradation of these components over time. So maximizing the sorbent and solvent lifetime is really crucial to these processes. The next group of challenges are more focused on energy requirements and material supply chains. So DAC technologies require a significant amount of energy to push the air through the materials, the sorbents and the solvents, as well as to regenerate the sorbents and solvents for a cyclic process. And the supply chains have not yet been established to get to gigaton scale of carbon dioxide removal using DAC technologies. And then the last group of challenges are more so systems level. So this includes plant siting considerations, which would include the local climate where the DAC plant is placed, access to renewable or low carbon energy. And then the last consideration would be integrating with the downstream storage or utilization component. Next slide, please. So the main goals of this pre-commercial technology prize are to responsibly scale up DAC technologies while maximizing the benefits of the clean energy transition. And Eli will, like I mentioned, he'll go through more of the logistics later, but it's important to note that this technology prize is specific to technologies which have not yet exceeded a scale of 100 metric tons of CO2 captured per year. So we're really focused on early stage technologies. And the DAC, like I mentioned before, the DAC pre-commercial technology prize is going to award cash prizes to teams that identify a critical need in the DAC industry, mature that breakthrough solution, and then test the idea to a specified degree of scale. And some, based on the challenges presented on the last slide, here we presented some ideas for different areas that applicants could work on, and that improves maximizing CO2 capture efficiency, improving space velocity and volumetric productivity of the sorbent or solvent. And you could also work on minimizing pressure drop in the system, minimizing capacity fade per cycle, as well as the electrical and thermal energy requirements. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Eli to go through more of the logistics for this competition.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Super helpful. So I'm going to walk through some of the details about this prize specifically, starting with the official rules document. Now, I'm really thrilled that all 117 of you are here. However, the single most valuable resource you have for the DAC prize is the official rules document. That official rules document lives in the resources tab on the Tech Prize HeroX page. Please, if you do one thing, it's read that document cover to cover. It will govern the entirety of this prize, and almost everything you need to know is in that document. If you have additional questions, you can also submit your questions on HeroX, as I'll get to in a bit. So in addition, here are some program requirements that we've outlined. Now, Tony walked through the technical requirements, and I'm going to walk through some of the more programmatic ones, which is really that the goal of the DAC Tech Prize is to help entrepreneurs with novel DAC solutions grow and ultimately commercialize them, right? That's the entire purpose of this. So as part of your submission, we want you to confirm your intent to establish a US-based business for your DAC solution in the near future. Again, the whole goal is to have you grow and commercialize this technology so it has an outsized impact on our overall carbon management goals. So we want you to build a company around it. Who is eligible? Again, a number of eligibility requirements for this, all of which are outlined in the official rules document. But at a high level, it's open to individuals or teams that have a breakthrough DAC solution. Individuals can compete, but building a diverse, multidisciplinary team may help strengthen your capabilities and your team competencies. Like I said, more of the official rules are in the official rules document, but it's open to individuals, private entities that are based in the US with a majority domestic ownership and control, academic institutions that are here in the United States, and non-federal government entities. Who is ineligible? Non-DOE federal entities and federal employees, including obviously DOE federal employees, individuals who work at NREL, entities and individuals who are publicly banned from doing business in the US or with the US government, and entities and individuals identified as a restricted party on the screening list of the Department of Commerce, State, and Treasury. These, as you can guess, can be found in the official rules document if you're curious, and please just ask us a question if you have eligibility questions. I also know that Tony walked over this, but I think it's very important because the whole purpose of the pre-commercial tech prize is that your submission must boast a novel solution that is not demonstrated at a scale of 100 metric tons per year of CO2 capture capacity or more. Just worth reiterating that because it is foundational to this prize. Pre-commercial, early stage technology that is novel. The last thing I want to mention is that this is part of the pre-commercial tech prize is part of a suite of direct air capture prizes, which includes the direct air capture epic prize. The direct air capture epic prize is focused on incubators and accelerators to support entrepreneurs with your DAC solutions. So we really encourage competitors in the direct air capture tech prize that I'm talking about today to use the incubators that are part of the epic prize as a resource. In fact, in phase 2 of the tech prize, should you get there, you will receive a voucher to use with those incubators. But even in advance of phase 2, we encourage you to start reaching out and making those connections now. That is the whole purpose of launching these together at the same time, is the symbiotism there. So please reach out to them. They're a really, really valuable resource. You can find more information about them on the HeroX page as well. And I think that link will also be in the chat. So what are some important dates for you to remember? Really at this phase, there's one important date for you to remember, and that's September 26th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Eastern. That is when your submission is due. So write it down in your calendar, circle it twice, underline it, but that is the date to remember, September 26th, 5 p.m. Eastern. We also will have phases 2 and 3 of this prize. I want to note, these are anticipated dates. They are subject to change. We will announce official dates as we get closer, but you can see kind of roughly what we've outlined for phases 2 and 3 of this prize. All right, let's talk about phase 1, which is develop. The goal of develop phase, to put it simply, is for you to have an idea and then to create a plan to design and test that idea. You do not need to have anything already built or already tested for phase 1. I want to put it again, the goal of phase 1 is just for you to have an idea and create a plan to design and test it. You don't have to have anything built or already tested. So we want to identify a breakthrough component or system level solution, and then you will eventually build out a design for how you're going to build and test that. Tony included the information below earlier, but it's worth just reminding everyone that in phase 1, there will be up to 7 semifinalists who will each receive $100,000 in cash prize and $50,000 to work with Nettle. Nettle, which will be the home to the Department of Energy's Carbon Capture Center in the coming months. So what do you need to submit for phase 1? The first is a 90-second video. Second is a cover page, core narrative, which will be the bulk of your submission, a PowerPoint summary, and letters of commitment or support, followed by state point data tables. I'll walk through each of those in a little bit more detail, but as always, the information is found in the official rules document. So what's in your 90-second video? Well, you can see it here. There's no specified format for this. We suggest that you answer these questions, and we suggest that you don't spend a lot of time on kind of the frills, the production value, as long as you answer these questions and you see what you're scored for here. If you are semifinalist, we may make your videos publicly available, but we'll let you know if that happens. So what's on the cover page? Again, just very basic information, nothing fancy here. Project name, innovation tagline, key project members, a link to your video, etc. Very easy, no frills. Summary slide. Again, no template. You present the information as you see fit, but think about this as your intro, your 101 level of what your idea is. Core narrative is where you will spend the vast majority of your submission. Your aggregated response cannot exceed 2,500 words for each of these 4 questions. What is the problem and why is solving it important? What is your solution and why will it be successful? What have you/your team done to date and what qualities give you a competitive edge? And what is your plan to achieve your goals? It's also worth reminding that please use specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant and timely outcome-based goals, not activity-based goals, so that a third party can validate them. For each of the 4 questions in the core narrative, the official rules document provides suggested content and then how we will score it. So please tailor your submission to focus on the suggested content, because that is how we're going to score. Letters of commitment. Attach letters of commitment from your relevant parties. If they are relevant, they will likely increase your score. If they're not relevant, they likely won't. As simple as that. And lastly, your state point data. Worth noting here, these are preliminary estimates. That is double underlined and emphasized. Submit your data tables with preliminary estimates for your solution. You'll go through the testing process later on in the prize, but for now, preliminary estimates only. So you've submitted all that information to us. What are we going to do with it? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to convene a team of expert reviewers who will review and score those submissions. All reviewers sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and the reviewers cannot have a personal or financial interest, be an employee, officer, director, or agent of the entity that is participating. In other words, they're going to sign an NDA and they won't have any conflict of interest when they review your submissions. It's also worth noting that, as always, DOE is the final decision maker for the DAC Tech Prize. They will look at the expert reviewer scores and factor those in, but they are the final decision maker. This is what we look at for each of these. But most importantly, this is how the core narrative is scored and the weight assigned to each of those questions. So a few nitty-gritty logistics details. HeroX is going to be your best friend, because not only is HeroX where you find the official rules document, HeroX is also where the forum is. So that's where you can ask me a question, you can ask Tony a question, you can ask anyone else. And it's also where you will engage with the pre-commercial Epic Prize. So once you want to engage with the incubators, you'll find their HeroX page and engage with them there. Once you have answered all your questions and you're ready to submit, you're going to click on Solve This Challenge, Accept, and then from there, you'll be prompted to either create a team, join a team, or compete as an individual. Once you've chosen the most appropriate answer, you will begin your entry. It should be very intuitive, but if it's not, shoot us a question and we're happy to answer it. HeroX is where you find your official rules document. It's where you engage with other people in the community, and where it's where you submit your application. Again, it will be your best friend in this process. So what are the next steps? Again, follow the challenge on HeroX. I can't say it enough. It's where we're going to post all the updates. It's where you'll find the official rules. Next, read those rules if you haven't already. Cover to cover, front to back, make sure you read the rules. Follow up, connect with the incubators and accelerators to help your journey. That's why we're holding the Epic Prize, is for them to engage with you and help you in your journey. So we really recommend you reach out. You can post to the forum on their HeroX page, and they will be happy to connect. And then lastly, please submit your application by September 23rd, 5 p.m. Eastern, so that we have the pleasure of reading it. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you have questions, email us at dacprizes@nrel.gov, or submit a question on HeroX, or pop a question into the Q&A box here online. I'm going to leave this open for just a few minutes so that you guys have time to populate any other questions that you have. But it was really a pleasure talking to you. I cannot wait to review your submissions. I'm very excited for this. So thank you all.